this episode, we explore how historical perceptions of autism have shaped societal attitudes and policies, creating significant barriers to education for autistic children in Pakistan. We'll trace the roots of these stigmas, examining autism from a historical lens, cultural misconceptions, and the deep-seated belief that neurodivergent behaviors are undesirable or abnormal. By understanding how these views have influenced societal norms and education systems, we can uncover why access to early childhood education remains so limited for autistic children. We'll also examine how the ripple effects of these outdated historical views continue to impact families, educators, and policymakers to this day, discouraging early intervention and inclusion in mainstream schools.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to episode 8. In this episode, I want to share a deeply personal story that reflects the harsh reality many parents of autistic children face. A mother recently came to me extremely distraught because her own parents, her child's grandparents, told her that her child's autism was a punishment for some evil act she must have committed. This heartbreaking narrative is just one example of how stigma around autism, rooted in generations of misunderstandings, continues to thrive in our society. This story reflects the historical perception of autism, not only in Pakistan but around the world, where autism has been viewed through a lens of blame, shame, and fear. These cultural misconceptions, passed down through generations, have led numerous families to internalize guilt and feel extremely isolated, preventing them from seeking early intervention and education for their autistic children. In this episode, we will explore the literature that traces the historical development of these stigmatizing views. We'll examine how autism came to be seen as a stigma and how these perceptions continue to affect families today, limiting their children's access to early childhood education. By understanding the global historical roots of these barriers, we aim to provide insights on how we can break the cycle of this stigma, ensuring that autistic children receive the support, acceptance, and education that they deserve. Let's now dive into the literature to explore the historical roots of autism stigma and its lasting impact on autistic children today, particularly in Pakistan. To deepen our understanding of autism stigma, we will draw on both modern and ancient perspectives on stigma, as outlined by Rossler, Link, and Phelan, and explore how these long-standing beliefs continue to shape societal attitudes, limiting access to early childhood education. The term stigma itself dates back to ancient Greece, where it was used to brand individuals like slaves or criminals, people who were considered less than human. This dehumanization extended to those with mental disorders, including those who might have exhibited autistic traits. The origins of stigma are rooted in this labeling and societal exclusion, with negative perceptions still haunting us today. As we move on into the Middle Ages, these perceptions unfortunately worsened. Individual differences that were considered mental illnesses, including autism, were demonized as divine punishment or possession by evil spirits. This view of autism still holds true to this day here in Pakistan. This extreme marginalization helped entrench autism and other neurological differences as something to be feared, laying the foundation of exclusion and discrimination which persists till today. The Enlightenment period brought about some changes, establishing institutions to care for those with mental illnesses. However, even then, stigma persisted. These institutions were more about containment rather than care, and individuals with conditions like autism remained isolated and excluded from society. While the framing of mental health conditions was shifting, societal views of autism remained entrenched in fear. Despite advances in understanding autism, this history of stigma continues to cast a shadow. As Rossler, Link, and Phelan noted, while we have made progress in embracing the concept of neurodiversity, stereotypes and social exclusion still persist. Modern societies may no longer demonize autistic individuals as possessed or being dangerous, but many still view autism through a deficit lens, leading to continued exclusion, especially in education. We can see these historical echoes in contemporary Pakistan, where cultural misconceptions persist. The story which I shared earlier of a mother being told by her parents that her child's autism was a punishment is a reflection of these long-standing stigmas passed down through generations. Families in Pakistan continue to battle the weight of these pressures, often feeling guilt or fear instead of feeling empowered to seek the support or education which their children need. The study highlights that families in Pakistan face immense societal pressures with stigma around disabilities, often leading to feelings of guilt and fear rather than empowerment. Focusing on the lived experiences of mothers of children with autism, the research reveals that cultural perceptions of disability in Pakistan profoundly impact coping strategies and access to support. Conducted in Karachi, the study involved 15 mothers from middle and upper middle class backgrounds who, despite their ability to afford therapies, still struggled against negative societal perceptions. Employing an interpretive approach, the research gathered in-depth qualitative insights through interviews exploring themes of stress, social support, and behavioral challenges linked to stigma. The findings underscore the impact of stigma on mothers, emotional and social support systems, revealing both the weight of societal judgment and the resilience families demonstrate in seeking adequate care and support for their children. As we learned from Grinker, stigma is not static. It is socially constructed and can change over time. And as Neiman reminded us, the neurodiversity movement has begun to challenge these harmful views, promoting autism as a natural variation in human experience, rather than a condition to be feared or cured. However, this progress is often slow, and historical stigmas, especially in more traditional societies like Pakistan, can be deeply entrenched, resulting in exclusion to this day. Historically, autism was seen as a very rare mental illness. Society viewed it with fear and misunderstanding. But over time, the rise of the neurodiversity movement has offered a more positive identity for autistic individuals. As Neiman explained, this movement reframed autism from a deficit perspective, something to be cured, to being understood as a natural variation in human diversity, deserving of acceptance and celebration. Autistic self-advocates were instrumental in this shift. The term neurodiversity was coined by an Australian sociologist, Judy Singer, in the 1990s to promote equality and inclusion, a term explored in CAP's work to push back against the deficit model and reframe autism as a valued difference. This shift mirrors the strategies used by other marginalized groups throughout history, challenging the stigmas imposed on them and advocating for a broader societal acceptance of diversity. But stigma around autism isn't just a cultural issue. It's tied to broader economic ideologies. As Davidson and Orsini noted, the capitalist focus on individualism and productivity marginalizes those who do not fit within these norms. In societies that value economic productivity and output above all, those who struggle with social communication or sensory processing, like many autistic individuals, are often seen as less valuable or incapable. This marginalization reinforces exclusion from schools, workplaces, and even social engagements. Activism, however, has offered hope. As Pelicano discussed, autism activists have challenged these stigmas by emphasizing inclusive views of autism, advocating for acceptance and support that goes beyond a person's ability to fit into the societal molds of productivity. They push for a world where autistic individuals are valued for who they are, not just for what they can contribute economically. These historical and cultural contexts feed directly into the exclusion of autistic children in Pakistan. Families, often internalizing stigma, feel hesitant to seek early intervention or advocate for their child's place in mainstream schools because they feel afraid. Children are often denied access to education and social opportunities, creating a cycle of exclusion. Building on this historical backdrop of stigma discussed earlier, Lily delved deeper into how stigma not only affects autistic individuals, but extends to their families, particularly mothers, in what is known as courtesy stigma. Just as the stigmatization of autism has its roots in ancient dehumanization and modern Societal exclusion. Mothers today find themselves judged and blamed for their child's condition. In Pakistan, mothers of children with autism spectrum disorder often face significant blame due to cultural beliefs and societal expectations. Many community members attribute a child's disability to the mother's past actions, with some suggesting it results from the mother's sins, thus framing it as a moral failure. Health issues during pregnancy, such as diabetes, are also seen as causes, with families frequently blaming mothers for any complications. Family dynamics can further exacerbate this issue, as in-laws or relatives may direct blame towards the mothers for perceived shortcomings in her health and parenting. This external blame sometimes leads mothers to internalize these accusations, resulting in self-blame and feelings of inadequacy. The pervasive stigma around autism and a lack of awareness about available interventions contribute to mothers feeling like they're not doing enough for children, intensifying both external and internal blame. This mirrors the broader historical narrative of stigma, where societal perceptions have long influenced how people with disabilities and those closest to them are treated. The emotional burden these mothers face is a direct consequence of a stigma that has been shaped and reinforced over centuries, as discussed in earlier works by Rossler, Link, and Fila. As mentioned earlier, one mother shared with me that her child's grandparents told her that her autistic son was a result of her own past sins. This notion reflects a widespread, deeply entrenched stigma that places unnecessary emotional burdens on the mother, who are already struggling to advocate for their children in a challenging environment. Such beliefs are not unique to one family. They are echoed across many Pakistani households, where autism is still misunderstood and mothers often internalize these accusations. The transition to formal schooling in Pakistan can further intensify this stigma. As Lily pointed out, when autistic children attempt to enter mainstream schools, they are often met with suspicion or outright rejection. This informal exclusion further isolates these children, reinforcing a system of discrimination that denies them access to the education they deserve. Pakistani mothers in particular face this battle head-on, constantly advocating for their children while also confronting societal and institutional barriers that marginalize their families. The emotional toll is immense. As mothers struggle with frustration, shame, and anger, they are also forced to be their child's strongest advocates in a society that often does not understand or accept neurodiversity. These stigmatizing views place undue psychological pressure on mothers, making it even harder for them to fight for their child's right to be included. This legacy of stigma deeply influences why autistic children in Pakistan are frequently excluded from schools and social spaces. Without a significant societal shift in understanding, both mothers and their children will continue to face exclusion, not just from education, but from the acceptance and empathy that they deserve.
The literature review revealed how deeply ingrained historical and cultural stigma continues to shape societal perceptions of autism, contributing to the exclusion of autistic children from schools in Pakistan. From the long-standing blame placed on mothers to the informal exclusion practices within schools, it is clear that these stigmatizing attitudes are a significant barrier to inclusion. The damaging historical narratives we explored, whether from ancient Greece, the Middle Ages, or more recent perspectives, still echo today, creating an environment where autistic children and their families are marginalized. So where does this leave the inclusion of autistic children in Pakistan's early childhood education system? Stay tuned as we uncover more barriers and begin exploring solutions to these deeply rooted challenges.